author and a fellow at the Institute for Strategic Dialogue. David, thanks so much indeed for your time. Can you just confirm for us briefly, before we get into more analysis, that this doesn't breach the Iran nuclear deal?
Well, technically not, but there's quite a bit of wiggle room because obviously the ballistic stuff and the missiles were not really covered during the Iran deal. The nuclear issue was ring-fenced for that deal, much to the chagrin of people like the Israelis and the American right.
Yeah, and certainly Donald Trump, that's one of the reasons he cited, wasn't it, for pulling out of the nuclear deal. He said it doesn't cover ballistic missiles. So what about the similarities in technology for a rocket that sends a satellite into space and one that could have a nuclear warhead potentially?
Well, look, I mean, the technicalities of it, I'm not completely familiar with. But the importance of this is that it's a signal. Okay, this is very much about Iran showing the technology it has. And when you launch something into space, it's possible that you can launch something similar at somebody else. This is very clear messaging. The timing with the resumption of the nuclear talks is not accidental. So what Iran is saying very much is, look, we are a technologically advanced power. We're now sending stuff into space. You need to deal with us. You need to take us seriously because one day we might be sending this sort of technology not into space, but at people who we consider to be our enemies.
Yeah, is it the same sort of messaging that comes with the greater enrichment of uranium? Because Iran has always said, look, all of our nuclear technology, it's all for domestic purposes, energy, etc. And yet, why, therefore, would it enrich uranium to the extent that Rafael Grossi, the head of the IAEA, says Iran is so close to being able to have a nuclear weapon? Well,
I mean, look, the deal has collapsed. If the deal collapses, it's got sanctions put back on it, and it keeps enriching at very low levels. There'd be no motivation for anyone to put the deal back in, and therefore Iran to get the sanctions lifted. As soon as the deal collapsed, said, right, we're going to go back to enriching at high levels, at your peril. Either give us sanctions relief, or we're going to keep very close to having a nuke. Now, obviously, being able to reach those levels and having a nuke and being able to deliver it are two very different things. But again, it's all signaling. Nuclear, don't forget about the nuclear program. Apart from potential path to a nuclear bomb, it's also leverage for Iran. And Iran does not have much political leverage. It's a way Iran can get hundreds of billions of dollars out of the international community. Pretty much the only way.
Is the deal dead in your eyes?
No, I don't think it is dead. Look, we have two sides. On the one side, you have Iran that does whatever it says. It needs a deal. It needs sanctions relief. It's got real financial problems. Had financial problems in 2015 and made the deal. They're even worse now. And on the other side, Iran ultimately needs a deal. On the other side, the P5+1, especially the Biden administration, they want a deal too. Two sides want a deal. I suspect sooner or later it'll happen, but they always follow a particular pattern. Look back at my first book, Nuclear Iran. Iran starts out, well, we're not going to compromise, we're not going to budge, mainly for domestic consumption. Slowly, they wiggle, but eventually a compromise is arrived at. I'm not saying it's going to happen again, but both sides want it, especially the European powers, and Iran needs it. So I think at some point something's going to have to give.
David, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much indeed. David Patrikarakos.